Hi, I'm Maria Korkeila. I'm a fashion and textile designer and an alumni of the Aalto University Bachelor course in fashion. Today I'm going to be talking you through the process of dyeing with natural dyes, specifically turmeric. Regular dyes used in the industry are what we call synthetic petrochemicals, mostly. They tend to have a big impact on the environment, and that's one reason why a lot of designers, for instance, are looking for alternative solutions to chemical dyes. I've been using natural dye methods before, for instance in my bachelor collection at Aalto University. So I was dyeing some hand-woven jacquards and some silks with Earl Grey tea, and you get a really nice beige golden tone with that. With natural dyes, you can dye natural fibers. That means cotton, silk, wool, hemp, etc. For natural dyeing at home, you can use a lot of familiar household foods and items. For instance, you can use coffee, tea, flowers, red onion, yellow onion, or as today we're using turmeric, as well as vinegar and soda. In addition to that, you'll be needing string to tie your garment, scissors to cut the string with, protective gloves, and a protective garment, as turmeric tends to stain a lot. You'll also need tongs or a spoon or a spatula to help mix the fabric. In order to achieve the pattern that you want to tie in places where you don't want the color to stick. If I want to do a classic tie-dye twist, I'll start twisting in the middle of the shirt. And this will create a spiral shape on the shirt. The places that are left exposed, like here, will be more yellow, and the places inside will be the ones that the color doesn't reach, so they will be white or less yellow. Once you have it rolled into a spiral, you want to start wrapping strings around it in order to keep it tight so that you keep the spiral shape inside. The tighter it is, the more white you will have on the shirt. So first we did a spiral, and now I have a hat prototype. I'm going to do a bit of more random spots on this one. Just scrunching the fabric in spots where I would like to have a circular ring that remains white. I'm going to leave the brim untied, so that'll be completely yellow, and then we have 3 ties on the top. If you want the pattern to be symmetrical, it's important to start at the center. That way you'll ensure more symmetry in your garment. So the last one I'm going to tie is a bit of a joker or an enigma, since I don't know what the fiber is. It might be a cotton blend, but I'm not entirely sure, so it'll be a surprise at the end. Okay, so next we're going to boil the t-shirts in water with vinegar. This will help prepare the fabric to take in the color and help with the color fastness. In general, per t-shirt, I would use a few deciliters of vinegar, and you want enough water so that the fabric can move around in it a bit. And you just pop them in. Now, since we're only using vinegar and turmeric, you can use whatever pot you have at home. Since we're not using any harmful chemicals, it's just stuff you find at the grocery store, and it won't contaminate your cooking pots. We're going to bring this up to a simmer. You don't want it to be bubbling hot or boiling. Just a light simmer is enough. And we leave it in for approximately 30 minutes, or if you want to play it safe, you can leave it up to an hour. And you want to make sure to stir occasionally so it doesn't burn at the bottom. So while your t-shirts are simmering in the vinegar, we can already prep the turmeric bath. You want another big pot full of water, and then you just pop the turmeric in. Again, I tend not to measure it too much, but for a batch like this, I would use a full big bag of turmeric. Remember to wear gloves and protective garments and protect whatever surface the turmeric might touch, because it's extremely staining and will stain your kitchen tops. And you just stir that in. As you can see, it's a lovely golden yellow color. And now we're gonna bring that up to a simmer. So now the garments have been simmering in vinegar for about 30 minutes. We're gonna take them out of the vinegar solution and pop them into the turmeric solution. I'm gonna lift them up with the tongs and let most of the liquid drain out. Don't worry if you don't get it all out. Now, since we're doing tie-dye and the result is gonna be uneven by design, I'm only putting turmeric and water into the solution. But if you want to do a full turmeric dye and have as even color as possible, you can add some regular cooking salt into the solution, and that helps to spread the color evenly. And again, you want to make sure that they're fully coated and wet. We're going to keep these in here for a minimum of 1 hour. If you want a stronger color, you can leave them in for longer. And as with the vinegar solution and the turmeric solution, you want to keep on stirring the pot so the fabric moves inside, gets fully covered, and doesn't stick to the bottom. Okay, so now we're done with the dye bath. We're gonna pour out the water into the sink and start rinsing it with cool water. Once the water starts turning bright and it's no longer yellow, we can add some soda into it, and it helps to fasten the color, and also it helps to keep the color a rich golden tone rather than it turning into a more brighter, lighter yellow hue, particularly if you're drying it in the sun. So I'm gonna go ahead and pour this. And I'm gonna start putting water, cool water into it. Scrunch them up to get as much of the turmeric out as possible. So as you can see, they're nicely yellow. I'm gonna do this a couple more times since the water is still quite yellow. Okay, so now before I put the soda in, I'm gonna cut out the strings. And change the water, and then I'll put the soda in. I would say put in a couple of tablespoons per item. And you mix that in. As you can see, the soda gives it a more orange hue. Now I'm gonna let it sit there for 10 to 15 minutes, and then I'll rinse it out until the water is completely clear. Okay, so now we have rinsed and soaked the garments in soda. You can see the results. And then we have the second t-shirt where unfortunately the knots opened, but we did get a very lovely orange tone. Tones also depend on what fiber the product is. As we said in the beginning, we didn't know which one this was, but I suspect now it's some sort of viscose, maybe bamboo, which tends to take in the color more strongly than cotton and silk is the same, for example. If you want it to be lighter, more like this, then you should leave it in for less time. Then we have the hat. So we have smaller circles on the top. Here maybe I would have done a little bit tighter so you get a brighter result like on the other ones. But all in all, you can see them quite nicely. And the jacket. Also here, these are cotton, but since they were not bleached white cotton, but a more natural darker color, then you get a darker tone than the white cotton. And then we're gonna hang them up to dry and they're done. I do recommend washing them separately if you're washing laundry at home. Thank you for joining us for this natural dye tutorial, and I hope you have fun dyeing at home.